Okay? But that's verses 1 through 3. It's an impossible situation, but in our impossible situations, that's when we refer the matter back to God. If we see something that is too confusing, too overwhelming, too overpowering, God, it's you. Only you can figure this one out. And there's some things we can figure out, of course, by the grace of God. But this situation that Ezekiel sees himself in, no. God, only you know. But God does not bring us into what seems to be an impossible situation without a sense of restoration and him showing his overall power. And in verses 4 through 8, we see God restoring the body. He's doing a physical restoration. Verse 4, then he said unto me, speak a prophetic message to these bones and say, dry bones, listen to the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Look, I am going to put into you breath and make you live again. I will put flesh and muscles on you to cover you with skin. I will breathe into you and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord. So I spoke this message just as he told me. Suddenly as I spoke, there was a rattling noise all across the valley. The bone of each body came together and attached themselves as complete skeletons. Then I watched muscles and flesh form over the bones. Then skin formed to cover the bodies, but they still had no breath in them. First of all, then he said to me, or in the King James, again he said unto me. He said, first of all, say what God says. First and foremost, say what God says. And what God's message is, speak a prophetic word. Tell the dry bones to listen to the word of the Lord. Verse 5, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Too often we want to put some of our opinions. We want to put our opinions and stuff too often. And we have to be cautious that when we are in those impossible situations, it's not a time for an opinion. Now, in times of leisure where we can think and we can reason and we can debate, sometimes, you can add your opinion to a conversation. And being human beings, yes, we have opinions. We have our perspectives, and we should let our perspectives be known. Not to try to force our opinion down somebody's throat, but there's nothing wrong with engaging conversation, engaging debates. Here we don't have time for debate. There are people in a dry bones situation, and they don't need to hear somebody's best guess, somebody's estimation. They need to hear a word from the Lord. And in the dry bone situations that are among us, families breaking up, not just youth acting wild, but adults acting wild. There's no fool like an old fool. And in our economic standing right now, we don't have time for a lot of guessing games, a lot of wordplay, a lot of someone's religious opinion, but we need to hear a word from the Lord. And the word from the Lord is, I'm going to put breath in you. and I'm going to make you live again. I'm going to put muscles on your flesh to cover you with skin. Notice he doesn't say anything about putting the bones together yet. Doesn't say a word about putting the bones together yet. He's saying already that I'm going to put breath in you. He's saying already that I'm going to put muscles and skin on you. God speaks even ahead of himself. That we look at the obvious first, but the bones ain't even together. So what? If God decrees something is going to happen, it's going to happen. But God, how are you going to put the bones together? Never mind that. That's not for us to worry about. So God speaks a word of encouragement. He speaks a word of restoration even before the first step is spoken. Even before the first step is spoken. And all we have to do is speak what he says. And the reason why God is going to do this, and this is so very important, in verse 6, then you will know that I am the Lord. Now, going back to that passage that I read in Jeremiah 8, verses 1 and 2, all of those kings and priests and prophets of Judah, they sinned against God. They did what they wanted to do. They decided to rebel against the Lord. They didn't know who he was anymore. Didn't know who he was anymore. In fact, during the time of King Hezekiah's reign, as he was making a reform back to God, they didn't even know how to do the Passover ceremony because it hadn't been done in so many years. So they had to go back to the law to learn how to do that. That's how detached the people were from the Lord. But God is saying that when I put you back together, now you're going to know that I am the Lord. When I give you restoration, you're going to know that I am the Lord. There's going to be no questions about, well, should we follow Baal? Should we follow Astarte? Should we follow the gods of the Egyptians? No, there will be no more questions. God will make his presence very, very, very much known. Okay, you can hit it.